Okay. If you're watching, let me check the Twitter feed, make sure we're broadcasting live on Twitter. Let's see. Is anybody on Periscope, or are you seeing it on the Twitter feed? Fix that right there. And we're good. We're off and going. Welcome into the Sunday Swings Live show. I am Chad Longworth, and I am a coach, player development, data-driven player development, hit tracks, exit velocity, launch ankle, throwing velocity. My general narrative is throw gas and hit bombs. That's what we try to do, and that's the way we try to train. Certainly it's more complicated than that, but that's the general thesis and the general hypothesis we try to work with on a daily basis. Can everybody hear me okay? Facebook, Instagram, Periscope. I need to scoot this over so I can get to the share button on Periscope and see how many people are watching. Okay. I'm gonna call Travis up real quick. He's on a time constraint, so we gotta get going with him. But I will let him introduce himself whenever he comes in. And everybody here okay? Travis. Chad Longworth, how are you? Can you hear me okay, Travis?
I can.
Great, man.
I can.
How are you this evening?
Outside, yeah.
Yep. I kind of gave everybody a heads up. You had in-laws in town and you were going to be on a time constraint, but if I know anything about in-laws, I know you're probably needing a break at this point anyway.
30 minutes, I can make it work.
For sure,
yeah.
For sure.
You're right. It's a balancing act.
There you go. Hey, Travis. For sure, we are live on Periscope, Instagram, and Facebook. Take a minute, Travis, and introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are and what you do and where you do it.
I'm Travis Sawchik. I write for Fangraphs and The Athletic, and I even once wrote a book, Big Dad Baseball. So I read a lot about the sabermetric, from the sabermetric perspective, but I'm also a former reporter, so I'm comfortable going in clubhouses and talking to players about things going on in their profession. So, that's pretty much what I do, and you can find me at Fangraphs and The Athletic in Cleveland.
For sure. I don't know if any of you have read any of Travis's articles on Fangraph, but Travis has been a very forward proponent of the fly ball rebellion, a rebellion and a revolution that I'm very passionate about myself.
Rebellion, I kind of like that. They've been calling it fly ball revolution, air ball revolution.
There you go. I like to think of. I mean, if you live if you live in the world that I live in on a daily basis, it's more of a rebellion. It's like you're the last castaway off the island, and everybody's trying to kick you out. But I want to dig in, Travis. I wanted to have you on, and I tried to shoot out and tried to get Josh on with you, but maybe that's another thing for another day. But I want to talk about the article you wrote this week about the Josh Donaldson, the technology feedback, and how that I guess formed or supported his approach. And really, here's where I want to frame it, and we'll go from here. And this is certainly this was the first paragraph that you wrote in the article, and it goes to the narrative of Ted Williams wrote about this stuff 30-40 years ago. We just today have gotten to where now we have the feedback, StatCast, we have the data to support the narrative that Ted Williams laid in front of us 30 years ago. 40 years ago, 50 years ago, that people said was crazy, you'll never do that, Ted Williams is a freak, you get all that narrative, but really now what we're seeing that I guess Ted is probably somewhere smiling down upon us.
Right, yeah, it's sort of like defensive alignment, where and this is tied back to Ted Williams, we saw the Indians field a famous Boudreaux shift against Williams in, I think, 1946, and then, for the most part, they went away for decades. We rarely saw them. We still get some lefty full hitters, but, of course, in today's game, they're a part of almost every team's defensive package. And part of the reason we see the buy-in is because of the data available. We know where every player hits every ball and every type of batted ball. We know where every pitcher tends to allow contact. So when you put that in front of people, you can't really argue with it. It's a fact. And I think we're talking to Josh. He arrived at, I don't know if he completely arrived at, but his belief was at least strengthened by he's an avid golfer, and he went out to a driving range in Arizona that was equipped with Trackman Technology, and I think the winter of, or the spring, I'm sorry, of 2011, and he wanted to have his swing analyzed. He wanted the balls tracked off the range analyzed, and talking to the instructors there, they're speaking to him about how to optimize launch angle for a golfer, and he began to think, this is something that I could apply to my baseball swing. Now, obviously, he's hitting a moving target, but there's still some principles and concepts that apply. And we think about, I think because StatCast has arrived and Pitch Effect, we think about baseball being on the cutting edge in technology, but really, baseball's been behind golf. It's been behind the NBA, which had player tracking well before StatCast. I think the Premier League in England had player tracking for baseball. So Donaldson he had to go to golf to kind of get on the cutting edge and get this information and the feedback, as you describe it, to either create this belief or strengthen it. Even though Ted Williams is way ahead of this before, until you get the concrete black and white information, it's hard to debunk conventional wisdom and get widespread buy-in. But I think that's what we're seeing. I think the ball may very well be juiced, that may have happened in 2015 midway through the season. But what also happened in 2015 is StatCast went online in every major league stadium, and players had that information. They could look at their own swings, their own launch angles, and while that, I guess, that probably existed to a degree with HitFX, now they could compare it very easily to the rest of the league and the best players and get an understanding of where their performance was best. So I think it's a juice ball and StatCast coming online, which is informing players of how to optimize their swing. And both those things happened in 2015. There's a long-winded answer.
For sure. No. I've said that. No, I've said that, and I'm okay with the ball being juiced. If it's juiced a little, that's fine. Offensive production is certainly good for the game, but I'm 100% with you. And it wasn't a coincidence that in 2015 StatCast came around. Guys for the first time ever, guys were getting real feedback on batted balls and real information and real data that again, like you said, it debunks conventional wisdom about the things that were done for 50 years. I mean, I played minor league baseball for 4 years. I did all the stuff they told me to do, stay low in the cage, backspin, that whole thing. And for me, it didn't work. Obviously, I didn't make it, but a lot of guys are able to overcome that and still launch balls. But I think that information for players has been valuable. And I think I said this in another article, but it's allowed players to comfortably do things in cages and to do things in training that weren't really accepted before. And there's really nothing that anybody can say because the data and the information is there. It is there, and it's not going anywhere, and it's not. I got a message from a guy today and this is kind of where I wanted to go with the golf feedback and the launch angle, but I got a message from a guy today that said, this is a fad, this is going to go away. Look, dude, this is not going anywhere. Launch angle feedback and people are the feedback loop of technology. I certainly, on the training end of this thing, I have hit tracks and we use that launch angle feedback daily. And Josh said this in the article, and you wrote about this, not as I'm going to the plate and I'm trying to launch the ball 20 degrees, because that's just not a feasible thing to do, especially in the major leagues where balls are 96 miles an hour and it's going 7 different directions at one time, but it's more of an idea and it's more of a plan and it's more of an approach, and guys like me are using launch angle as feedback, as better feedback for players, allowing them to develop their exit velocities and widen their window of launch angle production. I think you see that in a lot of the data, that the higher exit velocity, the bigger your window of launch angle. But touch on, I mean, you can touch on that about the idea and approach of launch angle. It's not I'm going to the plate and I'm trying to hit the ball 20 degrees every time, because it's just not a feasible thing. Touch on that a minute, and what your conversation with Josh was there.
Yeah, and I think that's where some of the naysayers about StatCast data and the fly ball rebellion, they get caught up, and I guess they think batters are trying to every swing, get their hit this perfect 23-degree launch angle, and get out their geometric devices and get it correctly. That's not really what's going on. And Cole Figueroa last spring, he was with the Pirates, and now he's in the Tampa Bay front office. And he explained it as, he was one of these early adopters too, and he explained it as, I'm trying to get on plane with the pitch, and the pitch is traveling, since the mound is elevated, every pitch is traveling slightly downhill. So my swing should be slightly uphill to meet the ball squarely. And I think that's a good way to think about this visually. These guys are trying to get on plane with the pitch. They're not necessarily trying to hit a perfect launch angle every time. They're trying to hit pitches squarely, and it's more the concept, a guiding principle that they take in the training, that they take in the games. They're not thinking about numbers. They're trying to make the best quality contact they can. And
For sure.
I like the way Figueroa explained it, and that resonated with me. It made sense. And I think Donaldson explained it that way too, where he said, look, this is, as you mentioned, the pitchers have sick stuff today. The average fastballs, the relief pitchers over 94 miles an hour, I think now, which is crazy. And we see starters are only going. Yeah, I mean, starters are only going a couple times through the order, and then you get these specialty middle guys, and then you get these flame throwing closers, and it's harder than it's ever been. So I think you're definitely right in saying that guys are trying to maximize their opportunities more than ever now. Yeah, and I think that's what Josh was saying. He is trying to do the best damage you can against certain pitches with these guiding principles. He's not trying to hit the 25-degree launch angle on every pitch. And certain pitches are easier to direct than other pitches, but you want to improve your chances of success against every pitch. And I think where we've really seen the show up is slugging percentage in the bottom third of the strike zone has really skyrocketed, I think, going back to last year. And I think that is suggestive of guys, even though pitchers generally still want to be down in the zone, that's your best chance to get a ground ball, guys are doing a better job against those pitches, driving them, getting them in the air. And I think that speaks to the information and changing practices, changing swing beliefs.
Yep.
And I think that's where we're really seeing it show up in the bottom third of the strike zone.
For sure. And I think
a guy like Mike Trout, Mike Trout has always crushed low pitches, but think about it's an automatic thing now to just pitch well in the zones, because some guys are doing their job there.
No question, and I think if you look, and I'd have to go back and look further on Trout, but this year Trout's exit velocity is like 88, 89. I mean, it's below league average, but he launches everything into the air, and he never misses that ball down. He never misses it. That's why he's so good. But I think, and you look at a guy like Aaron Judge in the second half. I was reading an article, or looking at an article on ESPN.com the other day. Pitchers are starting to get the ball up on him. They're starting to pitch him up in the zone, and he's not making the adjustment, which is going to be harder for him because, quite frankly, he's 6'7", and a player that's 6'7", it's going to be a little bit more difficult to make the adjustment up than a guy who's 5'9" or 5'10" to cover that ball up. But I think it's a combination too. He may be missing pitches. He's getting down, thinking about the ball up, and now he's kind of all over the place as you've seen. I think he's hitting like a $180 or $185 unless he's gotten hot. This is the last time I looked at it. But you're right. That I think pitchers are going to come around and they're going to make an adjustment. But I think they are always going to be. I think they are always going to be somewhat programmed to pitch down in the zone unless a guy like Kyle Bodie figures out how to develop spin rate, and you get guys with high spin rate throwing balls up in the zone, and then all the hitters are in trouble. So. Yeah, because you'll never get on plane with it.
Yeah, I don't. Has anyone figured out like how to improve?
No, not yet. No, thank God, not yet. But if they do, and you get a guy with a high spin rate pitching up in the zone, it's gonna be, man, it's gonna be difficult for hitters. But there'll always be opportunities for guys. Those balls down in the zone, balls up in the zone. It's certainly launch angle and training and all these other things. Travis, I think one of the things that you point out, and one of the things that drives me, and I have a feeling it probably drives you too, is that Donaldson's story is of curiosity. You wrote that in your article. It's one of curiosity and adoption of technology and the use of technology. I think that's a place that we are in the beginning stages, especially on the player development end of the use of technology. You know, I have a Hit Tracks, and so I train players in their daily routines to produce, you know, increase their measurable results. And I think that curiosity really drives me. And to Josh's point, he got on a driving range and thought, well, this could be applicable to what I do.
Right. Yeah, I think it starts with. I mean, I think a lot of professions, if you're curious, you have an advantage over your competition because you start asking questions, and any great revelation or great answer started with asking the right question. So, are you asking good questions? And Josh was asking good questions, and that's where a lot of self-improvement comes from, I think. And yeah, to take that from the driving range and to have that light bulb go on was big for his career. I mean, he was so talented, he was going to be he was a major league player regardless, but is he an all-star MVP caliber guy without adopting the technology and the swing change and thinking differently? Probably, I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I think this is a big part of who he is. And yeah, I think that's a great point. Whether you're a reporter like me or a baseball player, an instructor, curiosity is a big thing.
For sure, it's something that I try to drive home with my kids is just be curious. You'll figure out a lot of things without people having to guide you or tell you. The story that I was going to go back to and tell about, I have a friend, or I work with a guy in Orlando. I work with a guy's son in Orlando, and he played in a couple tour events. And we were talking about this when I was in Orlando with him. Was that golf is so much farther ahead as far as the adaptation of the technology, the Trackman. I went down there and messed around with a swing catalyst ground force plate measurement to try to get feedback on ground force measurements on a leg kick or a toe tap or just loading mechanisms and how your feet interacted with the ground. I mean, this was in a launch bay at Longworth Country Club in Orlando, and like golf people, and when he made this point, he said when there's only 125 tour cards, golfers are trying to find anything that they can find in a feedback environment that will give them an edge. And baseball, quite frankly, Travis, is not there yet, but it's going that direction. And I think you can see that in this story, that guys are starting to. It's that change. It's that tide of change where guys, and the answers are out there, like the swing catalyst ground force measurement. I was down there in Longworth, and I said, if I had this tool and major league guys could see this and see how their feet are interacting with the ground and how energy is transferring up the kinetic chain, this is like incredible stuff. Yeah. You know,
any hitters using that regularly, like anything like that?
I don't know if I don't know of anywhere right now that is using that swing catalyst. I think there are some ground force stuff. I had posted that on Twitter, and Kyle Bodie at Driveline had said, "Well, how do you know we're not doing it?" Like, I haven't. They probably are, but they haven't put out a lot about it. And so, but I haven't seen like any feedback on ground force plate measurement to see. And this was a golf tool, like I think he said Bubba Watson was in there not too long ago, like trying to figure out how his feet interact and energy transfers through the ground to get his center of mass accelerating so he can produce more clubhead speed. And that tide is coming quickly in baseball, and those training methods are coming quickly. And I think the thing that baseball guy, I think it will trickle through hitters, but pitchers especially, they got to figure out how they can keep that 94 to 96 mile an hour fastball, and they got to be willing to do anything with it, because like you said, those guys are coming out of the bullpen with flamethrowers now.
I think that's fascinating, and I think one of the things, a minor part of that story was just a reminder that, because I think sometimes people think, because baseball's so stats heavy and we see StatCast, they think that baseball's on the cutting edge of things, but really, as you point out, golf is way ahead of where baseball is with Trackman, and the acceptance level does seem to result. And I think you're right, we're going to see a big spike in buy-in and using these feedback loops. We're going to see it in baseball. We're going to see the technology make its way. But it's a reminder that baseball is not on the cutting edge. And I wonder, maybe baseball benefits by having a close relationship with some people in golf. I mean, the Pirates hired Mike Fitzgerald, who's a Trackman intern. And I think they wanted to leg up on understanding the information. And now he's running the Diamondbacks analytics department. So I wonder if there's an opportunity for some crossover too. But yeah, it's interesting. I think to understand the kinetic chains is a really important place right now in the game, and there's huge opportunities there.
Definitely, and I think the what, like you said, players. I don't know if traditional baseball people. I mean, you see so much like launch. I'm trying to think of the quote. Launch angle. Launch angle feedback is stupid. These guys are just trying to hit line drives, and regardless of what you think, where you lie on every ball is launched at an angle. It is launched at some angle. Are guys, trying to produce it? No, but every ball is launched at an angle. So the thought process and the measurement tools are not going anywhere. Now, how we use the data to better understand the inputs that are creating those. High speed video is better than it's ever been today. That is super important. Launch data is super important. Exit data is super important. Training, and then all of this stuff ties into the training. Like, how do we train guys to be able to adapt, to be able to launch, to be able to load, to be able to prepare to do these things. And I certainly think that the technology and then the things that we're starting to see are it's certainly not going anywhere. It's probably 20 to 20. I don't know when Trackman launch and spin rate and things on the Trackman and golf became usable. I want to say it's 2017. I want to say 20 years. So we're probably 20 years behind golf. But now you see a player like Dustin Johnson, who's using Trackman to dial his wedge in at 104 yards. The data, and I'm humble enough to say this as a coach and a player development guy. Like, the data is way better than I'll ever be. So why guess when you don't have to? I think that's my whole thing.
It's only showing you the end results of the process, and it's really guiding you to teach a better process, better instruction, better way to swing. So I just think people the naysayers get too caught up in the terms like launch angle or the number, but really you're just trying to understand the game and the process better. It's not so much about numbers, it's about understanding. And I think people just replaced launch angle with an understanding of we're just trying to hit the ball as optimally as we can. People are buying.
For sure.
People get scared by math, so it's always been, it'll always be there. But I think we are going to see the acceptance rate go up.
And Josh said this in the MLB interview with the second MLB interview with DeRosa. He said, I'm trying to catch 3 barrels today, and really I think, and I say this, almost every day. I think the greatest sin as a hitter is to barrel up a ball as well as you can hit it, and it's not launched up in the air, because you've wasted a ball that you've hit your hardest that's not in the air, that's not launched in that window that we want it to be in. And I think that's the whole idea, and that's the whole concept, is when I hit a ball as well as I can, I want to make sure that it is launched at 20 degrees, but they don't break out the protractors in the game and say, well, hey Josh, you only hit that ball at 12. What happened? Like, the idea is to when I hit this ball as hard as I can hit it, I have loaded myself, and my process is to get this ball up into the air, and the data supports that. The data supports that. You write about that, and I yell about that from the mountaintops on Twitter every day.
Yeah, and Daniel Murphy, the great national second baseman.
Yep.
Some players they're turned off by the idea of fly balls, because that also includes pop-ups, and so his thing is air balls.
Sure.
Stop
Yep.
thinking about just
Yep.
getting the ball in the air, driving it. But I don't think it's any coincidence that Ryan Zimmerman has had this renaissance with Daniel Murphy as a teammate, and I think we've even seen Bryce Harper engage in some different practices, and I feel they're making Murphy inspired. So I think it's pretty cool when you get a guy like Murphy in the clubhouse who can communicate these ideas, and you can see the power and how quickly things can change. It's really fascinating. A good instructor, a good teammate who can explain this well and articulate well. I think we're seeing the impact just on the Nationals roster this year, how quickly things can change.
For sure. Murphy. I talked with a minor league guy that hit with Murphy in the off season. Actually, Tebow hit with Murphy too in the off season. I don't know if you saw that, but the guy that I DM with back and forth a little bit trained with Murphy, and he said all Murphy talks about is he's got it marked in his cage, and he tries to launch the ball at 20 to 30 degrees in everything he does, and so it's more of knowing what that outcome is, and then training to that outcome, because in a high stress environment such as trying to time a 94 mile an hour fastball, your body's kind of gonna organize the way it best sees fit and has been trained to organize to get the particular outcome. And so guys are training that way. You never heard that 10 it's 2017, 10, 11, 12, 13, and it probably goes back further than that. And you still hear this narrative on the internet is do not hit the ball off the top of the cage, and that is just not true at all. If you're paying any attention at all, and really nobody did it. Nobody did it. I'm gonna go back to 2015. It was not a socially accepted thing anywhere pre-2015. Everybody, when you got in a batting cage, you were trying to hit it off the back. And in 2015, we might have gone, wait just a second. This is maybe not the best way to do that.
Yeah, the speed of an idea is pretty cool. How quickly it can change things. And Chris Bryant was hitting balls in the top of the cage since he was 9 years old in Las Vegas. So.
Yeah. I actually talked to Mike, his dad. And I'll tell this quick story, and then I'll let you go. I talked to Mike, his dad, in Nashville over the winter. He was at a clinic that I was at. And I said, Mike, I'm curious just as a dad, because I've got a son. He's 3. We're not anywhere close to playing baseball yet. But just as a dad, how did you coach Chris? He said, I'll be honest with you. He said, what we did is I took a bucket of balls to the field. He said, I threw to him until he either hit a home run or to try to see how many he could hit, and then we left. And so I said, well, that's pretty easy. I can get onto that, because I think, especially in that age, the Chris Bryants, some parents and some coaches are just overbearing in what their expectations are for their kids, whatever.
That's a cool story.
Yeah.
I'm a 2.5-year-old. So yeah. I'll remember that.
Yeah. I just I asked him. I said, not as a coach, Mike. I'm not coming to you as a coach. I'm coming to you as a dad. How did you coach him? And that's what he said. He said, and some days he would leave mad, and we'd ride home, and he'd be mad, and some days he'd leave, and he'd be happy. And he told some other stories about Chris growing up, but it was a really cool thing to have him around. It was a really cool thing to have him around and telling stories about Chris. And really, Mike is quite knowledgeable about hitting, so it was cool because he was around Ted Williams a lot. I don't know if you knew that about Chris Bryant's dad. Probably did. But he spent a lot of time around Ted Williams, so oddly enough, the whole story...
Yeah, I knew there was an influence. I don't know if I knew that he spent a lot of time around him. That's really cool.
I think Mike was in the Red Sox organization at the same time. But yeah, so... or Ted would maybe come back to coach in the Red Sox organization. There's somewhere they cross paths, and they crossed paths and interacted. Travis, tell everybody who you are one more time. Tell everybody where they can read your stuff, follow you on Twitter, and I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I'm Travis Sawchik. I write at Fangraphs.com. And for The Athletic, which is a relatively new startup that's covering the pro beats in Cleveland, Chicago, Toronto, Bay Area, Detroit, soon to come. And so, you can find my work there, those two websites, and just check it out.
Awesome. And I will share the article again. I shared it a couple times on Twitter this week. I will share it again. If you missed it, check out my Twitter. Travis, thanks for coming on, man. I'm going to stay on here for a little bit and take questions, and I appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks for having me on, man. I enjoyed it.
All right, man. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
All right. Travis Sawchik of Fangraphs. I don't know if you read the article that Travis wrote. Again, I will share it after this on Twitter specifically. But if you have questions, do you have any questions or concerns from me? A couple, again, on Instagram, a couple of the guys that I train in here crashing the comments. But do you have any questions? There's not that many people left, and so I'm gonna think that maybe there's not. But let me see here. Are there any questions from Instagram or Facebook or Periscope? We're talking launch angles. We're talking the article that Travis wrote about Josh Donaldson this week. It was really good. And if you don't read Fangraphs, I highly suggest you do so. It's a great resource for cutting edge information, especially in the data-driven training that I do. Fangraphs is a great resource for the reinforcement of what the top level guys are doing and producing. They have excellent analytics. They have excellent data. You may not want to geek out on all that stuff, but read Travis's stuff. He's written several articles about getting the ball in the air and guys taking that approach now to get the ball in the air. Are there any questions? If there's not any questions, I will end it there. And I encourage you to do a couple things. How does your vision affect? So here's a question on Periscope. How does your vision affect launch angles? Your vision affects how you hit the ball. I think there's a lot of research and a lot of things going on now to what players and Kyle Bodie and Jason Ochart at Driveline talk about this a lot is what do hitters actually see? What are they actually seeing in the time that they have to see it? Nobody really knows the answer to that question, so I think there's a lot of research going on now is what is it that hitters actually see, and then how we can better train those things. Does it affect the launch angle? No, but it affects how you hit the ball, and how you hit the ball affects your launch angle. But like Travis said, launch angle is more of an approach than it is, and especially in a game. It is a feedback tool that I use in training players to say, hey, get the ball up in the air. We're going to try to get it off the ground. Does the batter really see the pitcher to see the pitch out of the pitcher's hand? Nobody really knows the answer to the question. Nobody really knows what hitters see and what they don't see. And so I think there's a lot of assumptions, but again, we've gotten to a place where we're now seeking better answers, and this is what Travis wrote about. We're seeking better answers through through the use of technology in baseball, really for the first time ever. The technology is available to us to use, and now we are starting to dig and use it because guys are seeing results from using it. But yeah, so if you don't have any questions on Instagram, I'm going to end the Instagram because there's not that many people on it. I'll end that there. I encourage you to go online, check out my website, and then I encourage you to help me out and buy some t-shirts. The Daddy Hacks t-shirt is going to be available till Friday, so check that out before Friday. If you don't have it, just follow me around and you'll get the link to it. But I appreciate you coming in Instagram. I'm gonna end the Facebook too because there's not that many people on it. I'll hang out on Periscope for a few more minutes and